Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So I hope everyone is doing well during this time of social distancing and the coronavirus. And I just wanted to do this video with some thoughts in regards to love in during coronavirus. So, um, I've heard some things on the radio as I've driven to work because I work at a retirement home. So technically, I'm an essential worker that I'm still going to some work, I guess. And anyways, some of the segments that I've listened to over the last couple weeks have been really interesting, which has made me reflect a lot on how relationships will probably be making or breaking during this time. And as we've seen, there's been a lot of a rise in domestic violence during this time. And so I think if people are in very unhealthy relationships, this time of being forced in to isolation and being close with each other is going to be almost like combustion or fireworks because people don't know how to communicate or get along, or um, they're very reactive to certain situations. So instead of being having some diplomacy and learning how to work through issues and stuff with each other, I really think that people who are in unhealthy relationships, especially abusive ones, are probably suffering a lot during this time. You have the other end of the spectrum where relationships have suffered because of so much distance of being apart. Like if two people are career oriented individuals and they've been working a ton and now they're forced to be together, they're actually finding some light during this coronavirus time of having like extra family time, or they're actually saving 2 hours a day because they don't have to commute somewhere from like Seattle, Everett. So they're actually able to see their family, spend time with their family, and gain some of their life back and focus a little bit on the relationship and rekindling the romance. So it's kind of like humanity today is in such extremes. It's like politics, you have the extreme ends of the spectrum and kind of a little bit of everything in many areas of life that go in extreme. But yeah, it's really interesting. Love during the time of coronavirus. And some people who are in newer relationships, this might make or break their relationship because, it's still too early to spend so much time with each other. And, in another video, I explained how a guy didn't want to see his girlfriend because he had a fear of getting coronavirus from her if she potentially caught it from working at Fred Meyer because she's touching shopping carts and baskets and stuff all day long. um, it's just a really odd time. But the one thing through this is people, lightness is found through the dark. And so for some people who are in very negative, unhealthy situations, maybe this is their time to realize that this is the time to exit. That's really hard though when you have socioeconomic issues involved, if there's financial dependency, or it's not really easy to up and leave places nowadays. Like I don't do online banking. I don't have an app, so I can't go and deposit these checks. Now I can at the ATM, but like people who are not equipped with certain technological things, it's really difficult for them to kind of move on from certain things, especially once you're looking at the lower education, lower income populations. Now, on the other end, people are kind of finding some light during this situation. It's like, wow, I really enjoy spending time with my significant other, or, they're bonding through cooking and uh, virtual hangouts and things like that. So, some people are moving forward in the dark, some people are moving forward in the light. But what this does force us to do is to analyze again about socialness and social distancing. One other thing I listened to on the radio driving to work the other day was just a wee bit of a segment on NPR, and I think the segment was just about like, what are you reading? And so they played an audio skit or audio file from a caller who said, like, normally in real life he would find happiness and solace in the underworld. So he found a lot of he found a lot of joy in like horror books, zombie books, just a lot of fascination and delight of like the dark, like dark fantasy, dark novels, things that had to do about death and dying. To me, just in general, that just seems a little bizarre to find solace and happiness in that. That's a whole other topic in itself. But he said actually during this time of being socially isolated from people, he cannot read those novels. They actually made him depressed. Um, and he had to change a lot of the reading that he's done to find more happy topics and books that are just of different genres. So that's an amazing case study in itself. It's that battle between the light and the dark, that the dark to some degree is very depressing. Now, that that self-actualization or realization that that guy went through, finding that light in that topic has come because of being socially isolated. So, as much as there's a lot of negative vibes about being socially isolated, there are, the rises of loneliness and things like that. There are positives that come from this. The irony is, before coronavirus, my life of being a trainer and a fitness professional has been insane. I go to 8 different buildings. I have 12-hour work days, but with commuting in between, going some days like to 6 places, that's probably about 90 minutes of unpaid work. Now that I have just a retirement home where they've allowed me to pick up hours, I have some virtual training that I'm doing. Actually, that my quality of life has improved quite a bit. Like, I'm not working 12, 13-hour work days. I am, like my Monday might be from 8 to 4. And so I'm finding some form of balance that is making me reflect a lot of how should I transition back into normal living. So lightness can be found in the dark. That's what nighttime is. It's the dark sky with the moon illuminating certain things. So through this time, we're going to see people, I believe, reanalyzing their social life. For example, this might force people to become antisocial, especially if you're just in a relationship and you're not really making friends. It's really easy to get comfortable with each other and just hang out with one another. Now, for some people, this might actually make them self-actualize or just think about, wow, I've been antisocial for the last 8 years of my life, and once this is over, it's going to force me to be a little bit more social. So there are certain things that will come about this that are positive and negative. I don't really think this video, I don't think I should turn this video into like how to escape a negative situation. Obviously, if you are in an abusive relationship, there are hotlines and certain services and tools that can help you transition out of this, or how to maintain some space in that. I'm not a professional in that realm to give advice, but I do want people to think about socialness on 2 different ends of the spectrum. Will this force you to become more social, or will you just get comfortable during this time to continue a path of being unsocial or antisocial? The goal here is to not become antisocial. Some people are a little bit more extroverted and introverted than others. That's normal. But a lot of this self-actualization during this time will be very beneficial to whatever that means for you. So that guy who reads a lot of depressing, dark stuff about killing and zombies and whatever, he actually found like that material is really depressing, especially when you have no social contact. So that kind of loops back around to other videos that I've talked about, that we are social creatures that crave a human and emotional connections. So maybe when he was getting emotional connections through his friends or people at work or just being out there socially, he can wallow in the world of, dark novels and feel content or kind of satisfied from it. I know, like, now that being in a relationship, I have found that just wallowing on my own, even just watching spiritual commentators on YouTube, actually was very kind of depressing. Although we all preach the same thing about raising your vibration and trusting in God, there's still nothing that can replace the human experience and sharing a life with somebody. And so it's kind of like that in itself, to some degree, was a little depressing. Just being able to sit at home with no plans, 4 nights of the week, and just kind of rummaging on YouTube to listen to all these things, even though it was talk on spirituality and God. Now, some people can analyze that and say, like, well, it all comes from within, and it does come from within, but the reality of our human nature. Like, God made us to be with one another, and so I do think we find um, some form of other joy when we're experiencing life with another person that is an actual healthy relationship. If it's a negative relationship and it, triggers all these psychological and emotional ghosts, that's not healthy. So how can you take this darkness and lightness of socially distancing and being isolated, how and lonely, what will this force you to do? If you're lonely, this might force you to have some faith at this time. If you're lonely, it might force you to start to try to become a little social. As an online community college instructor, I teach a yoga class where, we're learning a lot about the 8 limbs and theory. People open up online because there's no judgment there. These students talk about their depression or talk about what it's like to be bipolar and how yoga and breathing is helping them, or how this, the yamas and the niyamas are helping them, or how, these kids live in Walla Walla, which is a very Christian town, especially with Seventh Day Adventists. Um, and they talk about, wow, yoga has helped me still become a very good Christian and things like that. So you can be social online. I don't think it's the same as having that heart to heart human interaction, but it kind of forces people to open up because there is no judgment. There is no like, facial expressions from the people on the other end of the table to judge what you're talking about. So this might use technology in a positive way to help you through this time of loneliness. Maybe this will plant the seed and help you set up the path to having a little bit of a healthier social life once we pull out of this. Who the fuck knows when that's going to happen, because a report on the TV yesterday said social distancing till 2022. I think that seems a little ridiculous. But anyways, these are some thoughts that I have. If you have any thoughts on how some things have been illuminated during this time of socially distancing and isolation, I would love to hear it. If you have any tips for other people, please share it because we can all learn from each other. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Have a great day. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.